Hi, I'm Sarah and welcome to my knitting podcast. It's been quite a while since I've recorded a video. I've been in a bit of a knitting slump, so to say, which is unprecedented for me. This has never happened before. But I thought I felt like recording a video this evening and I'll show you what I've been knitting and tell you about the mistakes that I've made. And yeah, I've had a really bad week because my cat has been ill, but yeah, I'm hoping that it will get better this weekend. It's Friday today, and I'll mention more about my cat at the end of the video, but he's doing okay. He's home from the hospital now, and he seems to be doing better. So yeah, I've never recorded a video at nighttime, but I think it's fine. And I'll show you the project first that I have been doing the most work on over the past couple of weeks. It is my Gia zip Genser by Sandnesgarn designs, and I'm making it out of Hedgehog Tweedy, which is a DK weight yarn, and laying mohair in the lace weight held with it. So here it is. It's got a body now and one sleeve. This is a top-down drop shoulder sweater with a double knit sort of placard and these zipper facings, and then the zipper will go in here. But I was going to put the zipper in before I did the sleeves, but it really needs a block before I do that because one of these edges is longer than the other. So I think after a block it will sort itself out. So I thought I may as well do the body and the sleeves. The body, I thought I was knitting kind of long, and then I put it on and it was done, and it's not very long. It's not like cropped, but it's probably about the length of this vest that I'm wearing, which is the Roosty Tank by Ella Gordon. I love this. It was in the Shetland Wool Week 2021 annual, and I did my own colorway for it. I did a little patch of mending on it, which I'm not sure if you'll be able to see because the light is a bit dim. And I've been wearing this a lot. I just love it. It's great. It makes me want to knit. I love knitting Fair Isle, and I really enjoy the planning for it, but I don't so much enjoy the buying lots of different colors. So I really want to knit another Fair Isle project, and it's sort of in the works as I'm trying to overcome this knitting slump. But yeah, I pulled out all of my yarn, and I just couldn't figure out a way to make the colors that I have arrange that in a way that would look nice together. So I think I need to keep thinking about it before I cast on another Fair Isle project. So yeah, I worked on the body. I did quite a lot of ribbing, and then I did a tubular bind off. And I modified the body. You're supposed to decrease every other round. I was doing every fourth round, and then I just stopped decreasing because I didn't really want it to be more cinched in. And for the sleeves, I decided to do something that I'd seen in a Roxanne Richardson video. She had recommended that for drop shoulder sweaters to try putting the sleeve decreases at the top of the sleeve instead of the bottom to give it a bit more sort of a downward shape. So I've done this, but I'll put it on and I'll show you. just so that you can see what I'm going to be talking about. Okay, so here's the length. And here is the sleeve. I do think I'm going to get a little bit more, like a little bit less of this roll after it's blocked. So I think that this is probably close to where I would want to start the ribbing, except, so since this, I did my decreases along this line here. Offset from the seam, because the seam is placed a little towards the back, sort of on the top of the shoulder, as close as I could get. But I don't know, it's looking like it kind of rides up on where that decrease line is. And normally, I guess, that would be in the armpit. But I've been finding when I bend my elbow, like this side is so much shorter than this side that I think I need to knit it longer, because if I do 2 inches of ribbing, or even 3, then when I bend my elbow, the sleeve's only going to come up to my wrist. And I think I want it to be longer than that. I'm not totally sure. I'm thinking about ripping out the sleeve and doing it again with decreases in the normal spot, and maybe every 6 rounds instead of every 8 rounds, so that they're a little bit not so big at the bottom. But it kind of kills me to rip out a whole sleeve, because I've been really struggling to pick this up and to knit on it, and it's probably like 2 weeks worth of knitting that I would be ripping out. But I do think it would be worth it to have an end product that works really well. And I was thinking about picking up the other sleeve and then just leaving this one and doing the other sleeve, decreasing at the bottom. But then either way, I'll still have to rip out a sleeve if I do that. So I think I would rather front load the ripping out, although I don't think I'm going to do it today, and have it the way that I want it. I really would love for this to be finished. I'm a little bit like, I don't know, ready to move on with my knitting and knit on something else. It is beautifully soft, and I really like the yarn. The pattern's been good. I don't have any complaints. The most complicated part of the pattern was picking up for the double knit section at the bottom of the sort of neck front area. You end up increasing along these 2 sides, just like a normal drop shoulder construction. You increase a lot working flat, and then you cast on a bunch of stitches to get this shape. It's like a trapezoidal shape, and then you pick up in a way that you can then just double knit straight away, if you can see that. And there was a picture tutorial for that, and I found that really useful and pretty easy. It was not a technique I had done before. And I did have to do the second side again, just so that it matched the first side. But yeah, I think it came out really good. I think it's gonna be a very nice jumper once it's done, but I have to finish it first. I'm not gonna rip out or cut to make it longer. I think if in the future I want to do that, I will, but I'm not gonna do it now. It's long enough to work for my purposes, even if I don't know what I was thinking. I just thought that I thought that this would be longer. So yeah, so that's the Gia zip Genser. I'll grab my zipper and my zipper pull. This is the zipper I bought to go on the jumper. I think it matches really well. And I also bought this little gemstone thing to be my zipper pull. It's some sort of semi-precious stone. It was a little bit of a silly purchase, but I'm going to find a way to attach it either instead of this or at the end of this. And I think it will look really nice with some of the like pink neon-y spots in the jumper. The lighting, you're not going to be able to see the colors very well probably, but it's nighttime and, you know, I mean, it's not nighttime. It's 6 p.m., but it's dark. But yeah, I think this will be really cool. And I was a little unsure if it was really silly to buy it, but I think it's gonna be great. So yeah, this is the zipper facing, which will go on the inside so that the zipper isn't touching your skin. I'm a little bit wary of sewing in the zipper, but I think I'll be able to do it. And yeah, so this, I think the sleeve has to come off. I just don't think that this is feasible for me, because if I guess I never finished my thought. If I do end up making it another, what, like 2 inches before the ribbing at a minimum, then this end is going to be way too long. And I get the fabric is really nice, but it doesn't have a lot of elasticity. It's quite a dense fabric, so I think that the sleeves might ride up. I don't think it's going to be a case of the elbow just stretching out a little. So, but that was a decision I made because I chose to go down a needle size to knit with a bit of a denser fabric. So I do think it will be good in the end, but I just need to sort of do a bit of figuring out in the meantime. I also cut my own hair since I last recorded a video. I just chopped off about 5 inches from the end. It was kind of dead and it was always really snaggly. And I was so frustrated that one morning I just like pulled my hair cutting scissors out of the drawer and I like grabbed it in my hand and cut it off. But I don't really feel like myself because I've had a shag haircut for 4 years now. So it feels a little bit weird I don't know. I'm still getting used to it. It probably looks quite similar, but for me, it feels like a big change. And I do think I want the shag haircut back again, but it is nice to not have those like really snarly dead ends. I normally get my hair cut like twice a year, so by the time I'm back home getting a haircut, it will probably have grown out even more, and I can get the shag put back in. Normally, like, these top layers are really short, but right now they're quite long and my fringe is completely grown out. So it is about time. My hair grows quite fast, so it is about time to get a new haircut, but I don't think it'll happen for another few months. But do you ever just give yourself a bad haircut? I've given myself a number of bad haircuts. A lot of the time the fringe is the culprit because I'll pull it down and like pull it down and then cut and then let it go, and then it springs up because my hair's wavy. So yeah, definitely not the first questionable haircut I've given myself, but I think it looks fine to anyone who's not me. It doesn't, I don't know. Maybe I'm just really overthinking it. Anyway, my second project that I will show you is my MCAL scarfified version. So by the time I uploaded my last video, it was like weeks after I recorded it. I thought I was going to get it up really fast, but I didn't. And the whole MCal was out by the time I had put my video up, which was pretty cool. I really enjoyed knitting it this year. I didn't knit it like properly along with everyone, although part of me kind of wishes that I did. And yeah, it did end up being quite like scarfy and long, which is nice, but I had already started my like proper scarfified version, so there's no going back for me. Although I do really like the original shawl. I still don't think I'm gonna make it, but I think it's a really good one. I've shown this. It's basically, I mean, it's a little bit further than the last time I recorded, but not much. But here is, so I've really only just barely started clue 3 in this little corner here, which I'll show you in a second. I haven't quite decided what I want to do for that, and I really don't know what I'm gonna do for clue 4. I love how in the pattern Stephen had you go back to the beginning as part of clue 4, and how that sort of kept everyone on their toes. I'm not sure how to incorporate that. I could just keep going in this direction, but I don't think that that's going to make as much of a difference in my version as it would in the shawl version, just because I'm planning on making a couple of these anyway and sewing them all together. So I guess I'll just like talk you through what I did, because it's been a while since my last video, or maybe you didn't see it. So I knit the initial semicircles as instructed, and I really enjoyed knitting those. In fact, I have a third one somewhere. And I ended up I bound off these, no wait, I didn't. I ended up, 3 needle bind off a little bit less than a third of the stitches in the middle. And then I did a decrease, center double decrease every other round, and a decrease every other round on each edge, and that I just did with my contrast color. But I repeated the knitting purling pattern that was established in this stripy section, and I really like the way that that square came out. I think it's really nice. And then this second section was really easy to scarfify because I've dropped a couple of stitches. One sec. Yeah, got them. So yeah, the second section was really easy to scarfify because it was just brioche and baubles. And so I did that. I think I did a couple of extra repeats. This also hasn't been blocked, so it'll really stretch out when I block that. This section has been blocked. And then I've just started section 3. Here, I found this section really fiddly. I'm a real lover of a chart, and I just wish that Stephen would consider utilizing charts in the MCal. I know it's probably never going to happen, but I think I'm a very visual learner, and I'm sure eventually, I mean, I've only done 2 triangles. I'm sure eventually I'll memorize like whatever it is to, like whatever the steps are to do a triangle. But if it was a chart, it would be like, I wouldn't even have to think about it. And as it is, it's a little bit of a grueling starting process. But I'm thinking that I'll go across my scarf, which is quite narrow, as everyone did going across their shawl. And then maybe just do that a couple of times. I think that would look pretty cool and stay quite true to the original design. Yeah. So, but if I really don't enjoy doing the triangles, like if I haven't memorized it by the end and it's still feeling really like, I don't want to, this is not an enjoyable knitting experience, which is kind of what was happening, which was why I put it down, I might just do the one stripe across and then figure out what I'm going to do for clue 4. I have recently seen that Stephen West has posted the Go Dynamo socks, where he sort of does what I'm trying to do in this to a sock. So I'm going to use the sock as inspiration for my clue 4, because he's got these like really cool, there's like a stripe within a stripe slip stitch situation, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I think I might, I'm not gonna just like knit it straight up. I think I'm gonna play with it being a bit modular in the same way that I have in this section. Probably not doing a semicircle, but maybe like diagonal stripes or even like vertical, and have that. It's just to set that section apart because I really like how it's sort of going in different directions. And as I said before, I'm going to, when this section is done, I'll probably make a whole other one, and seam them together, or maybe even 2 more, depending on how long it is and how long I want it to be. I really love it. I sort of stopped thinking about it because it was away, but now I'm a bit inspired to like get back on it. And yeah, I don't have a scarf that I've made here. I left my scarf in Edinburgh, so it would be awesome if I could finish this before it gets into scarf weather. We're in jumper weather. We've had like 3 cold days in a row, which is great. But we're not in scarf weather yet for me. I run very warm, so, but I do believe that a scarf should be your first defense against the cold. If your neck isn't covered, what are you doing if you're cold? It's like you can't complain about being cold if your neck's not covered. That's where like everything important is happening. You need to keep it warm if you want to stay warm. Yeah, I have like a nice scarf. That was a gift, but it's not handmade, so I would love to knit one for this winter. I think that would be great. And this one, it's very nice. I'm using Neighborhood Fiber Co. sock in Truxton Circle, but it is from before they changed their sock base to be organic. I don't know if the color is the same now. This I bought in 2019. So I really like the color. I think it's a great like plum purple color. Very classic. And then the other color that I'm using is from Swoon Fibers, and I think it's called like berry compote. Something about berries, and I really love that color. It's a single ply and it's beautiful and drapey, and I'm loving the combo. So that is my MCAL. My other thing to talk to you about today is a test knit that I signed up for. I haven't cast it on yet, but I am going to cast it on soon. Like, I'm probably not going to wait to finish my gray jumper because the deadline's kind of coming up, and I signed up for it like way before I had this knitting slump, and yeah, I was like, there's not a thought in my mind I wouldn't be able to finish that because it was a long test knit. But now I think it's like 5 weeks left, so I really ought to get started if I'm going to have a chance at finishing it in time. And it is a test knit. I will put the picture on the screen. I don't remember the name, by the knit Purl girl, whose name is Sophie. She's so nice. I'm really excited to test knit for her. I have knitted one pattern by her. It was a few years ago, the Semper pullover I used as a base for a nuded-in jumper that I knit for my boyfriend that I put a colorwork chart on. And I found that pattern quite challenging to follow because it was, in my eyes, over-explained. Like, instead of saying, do German short rows, like knit however many German short row, knit however many German short row. It was like, pull the yarn over, knit 4 stitches, switch your needle from left to right, pull the yarn over. It was like so detailed that it was hard to follow for me. Although I think it would be really good if you are a person who'd never done that technique before. And I have read through the pattern. It doesn't seem like this is doing the same thing. It has information that, to me, I don't think it needs to be in a pattern. Like, it explains stockinette stitch, both flat and in the round, and I'm kind of like, people who are purchasing a pattern for a garment probably know how to knit stockinette flat and in the round, but maybe not. I don't know. But that's not like in the pattern anymore. That's separate, in a separate section. So I don't really care what's in a separate section because it's like the pattern has been very clear, which is good. So I've read through the first couple of steps and I've looked through all of my yarn, and I think I'm going to do like a stripey version, using as a base these cones of Holst Super Soft. I have 2 cones. I don't think I'm going to need 2. I just have 2. I was planning on making like a really big cabled like cardigan coaty thing. The Pitch by, I'll put it up, it'll be up on the screen. I think it was released in collaboration with Brooklyn Tweed. So I bought these to do that back when I thought that I would go through a neutrals phase when I like matured. And that was, I would say that like past me would think that me now has matured, and I'm not anywhere close to a neutrals person. It's just not my interest. So I don't think that this camel color on its own is ever going to be a color that I want a whole garment out of, let alone 2 cones. So I'm gonna make this a little stripey, and I think that that will be really nice. I, from Stash, picked these yarns that I thought would be nice earth tones. I guess these are neutral, but is a stripe a neutral? I don't know. I don't really care. To me, this is a neutral. So yeah, I want to do like uneven stripes. Think like rock form, you know, those rocks that are the result of layers being pushed down on top of each other. That's the sort of thing that I'm thinking with this. I think it'll be really pretty. And maybe I also need like a cream in there. And I like the sort of graphic black stripes with something. So like thinner blackened color stripes. So I'll probably be including that as part of it. It's kind of difficult to describe because I don't exactly know what I'm going to be doing, but the jumper is kind of similar to my zip jumper, but it has like toggles instead of a zip. And I think it would be a really good contender for some really nice stripes, like quite a bold pattern. I'll be holding the Holst Super Soft double, and I really like Holst Super Soft. I made the stick season pullover probably like, I think I finished it like a year ago today. I've worn that thing so much, and I knit it in black, and I found that it's worn okay. It looks a little bit scruffy and fuzzy, not in a way that it can be depilled, but just it's difficult to explain. But I don't think that that look would be so apparent if it wasn't solid black. If that makes sense, I think that the fact that the fabric color is so uniform means that any weirdness with the way that the fiber is looking is really apparent. Like, I think this probably is in worse shape. It's in good shape, don't get me wrong, but I think like when there's something going on, it's so much harder to see like little teeny baubles and fuzziness. And most of these yarns, except for the black, which is the same, have a little bit of a heather to them. This is a bit heathered. This one, this is cinnamon. I know that the lighting's not that great. This I think is camel. Oh no, it's mouflon. And then I have the black. So I don't think that I'll have the same issue with this. It's not really an issue. Like, I still wear the stick season and I love it. I have it in Edinburgh and it's like my go-to sort of stylish jumper for there. That is also quite easygoing. Like, I absolutely do not have to plan an outfit around it in the way that you kind of have to, like with a vest like this, you kind of do have to plan an outfit around it. Just like, I probably wouldn't wear this with short sleeves, just because if it's short sleeve season, I don't need to wear a wool vest, and I wouldn't wear it. I have worn this with like a stripy top underneath, but I like it much better with a solid top, just so that you can really see like all of the color intricacies. But the black stick season sweater is so good. Like, I just keep it near the door and I throw it on if I want to, and I never have to think about it, and I love having it. So I have actually thought about making another one, because it's just such a good knit. It was really enjoyable. I really liked working with Whole Super Soft. And it's just so wearable. So I'm hoping that this, it's not going to be like similar because it's going to have stripes, but the working with Whole Super Soft element of it will be the same. So yeah, I'm pumped for that. I was watching Aro from Aro Knits and Purl's most recent video, and she was talking about having a knitting slump, and she said to start something that you can finish, or finish something that you've already started that you can finish. And I don't have any whips that are close to being finished, so I can't do that. I was thinking about maybe casting on a hat, but I just don't really feel like it. So I think I'm just gonna sort of put my head down with my current projects and really try and focus, and also cast on this test knit, because it would be okay if I wasn't able to finish it, but I really want to give it a good go. And yeah, put some time and effort into finishing. I mean, at the very least, finishing like the yoke and a sleeve, but really I'd like to do all of it. And I think it's feasible. I think I have like a good amount of time. I'm also like, I've always been quite a slow knitter, but I have a lot of free time. I'm still looking for jobs. I have had some interviews and they've gone quite well, but then I haven't gotten the jobs. So that's been a little, you know how it is. It's just a bit grueling, I guess. I do have a part-time job at a spin studio where I check people in and like clean downstairs and clean the bikes out and that sort of thing, and that's been really good just to break up the monotony. But yeah, it would be nice to get a job that I was sort of more excited about, I guess, I would get more regular hours in. So, you know, I've got a lot of time. And now that my cat Fergus is not sick, I have a bit more mental space as well. I guess I'll give you a little Fergus update, and then I'll call it for this video because it's actually been quite long despite me not having done very much knitting, but I've been in a sort of chatty mood. So on Monday, Fergie was vomiting and having diarrhea, and he throws up occasionally. He hates it when we shower, so sometimes he'll throw up when one of us is in the shower because he's anxious about it. And so he threw up when I was in the shower, but he was sort of doing a lot, and I thought this is me being really paranoid, but we called the vet and said, like, we know that cats throw up all the time, but he seems like this is sort of more than normal. What do you recommend that we do? And they were like, oh, we actually would recommend you bring him in, and if he's having both throwing up and having diarrhea, because they can lose quite a lot of fluids. So we were able to make an appointment that day. Yeah, we were able to make an appointment that day. That was Monday. And we took him in and they gave him like a fluid injection under the skin, checked him out. He felt fine. To that, like, you know, they like feel their bodies, and they couldn't really tell anything was wrong. So they gave him an anti-nausea medicine and sent us home. And they just said keep an eye on him, and that it would be a problem if he continued to vomit through the anti-nausea medicine. We were worried he'd eaten a toy or eaten like a piece of yarn or something. But they said that we should, you know, keep an eye on him. If he keeps trying to throw up, then it's sort of an emergency. So he was fine that night. And then, oh, also he wasn't eating, and he's like a really hungry cat. So that was very strange for us. The next morning he threw up, but he didn't have anything to throw up. And he was like really drooly, which I've never seen before. But he ate his breakfast, and that was a really good sign. So we weren't too worried. But we called the vet and told them that he'd thrown up again, and they were like, okay, well, you should bring him in, and we'll do an x-ray, because that's maybe a sign that he's eaten something and he's trying to get that back up. So we made an appointment for quite late in the day. It was like 5 p.m. I think, somewhere around there. But then at like midday he started acting really strange for him. He's normally like on one of us all the time and like really present, really chatty, very affectionate, and he was just like acting weird. He was hiding, he was like drooling everywhere, constantly retching, like he was sad meowing, which was so sad. And we called the vet back and we were like, this seems like an emergency. We really want to bring him in as soon as possible. And they had an appointment, and we ended up being able to bring him in around 3. And they kind of were like, he ate something, so that's a good sign. They weren't dismissive, but they were a little bit like, it's up to you. We can't really tell anything that's wrong with him. And they didn't think that they needed to run blood work because they thought that maybe he was just sort of stressed out or something. And they wanted to send us home. But I was like, unless he starts bleeding, there's nothing he could do now that would make me more worried. Like, he couldn't act any stranger or any more like he was in pain to me. So they said, oh, I was like, I don't really want to take him home and just see how it goes. So they did an ultrasound, but they only had like a very inexact ultrasound, and they did an x-ray, and they didn't see anything on the x-ray. And in the ultrasound they saw that he had some like inflammation in the very upper part of his intestine, like the part that's attached to the stomach. Duodenal, something like that. Duodenum. So they said that we could take him home, or we could take him to the emergency vet, and that they would maybe have a better ultrasound machine that could see more clearly if there was something, if he'd eaten something. So we took him to the ultrasound vet, and we don't have a car, so we were like taking him to the closer one and taking him in taxis, and he was just like so upset in the carrier. And we got into the first emergency vet, and it was like a triage sort of situation where we walked in the door, and within seconds there were a lot of people like asking us what was wrong, which was great. And I would go back there if I was in a situation where it would be useful, and they were just really nice. And yeah, they were basically just saying, like, we do have an ultrasound technician, they're not here, we can call them and see if they're available to come in. But then, oh, and we had asked for the blood work to be done at the vet, just in case. And then, so the blood work had just come in, and they looked at the blood work and they saw that he had really, really low blood cell counts. So, yeah, so they were really worried that that could be an indicator of a greater issue, because they said that the blood cell counts rarely get that low unless there's an underlying issue like poor bone marrow, or like a type of cancer, or an overwhelming infection. And they said that it was unlikely that he had an overwhelming infection because he didn't have a fever. But it was possible that if he'd eaten something, that could be the cause, but it was very unlikely. So they told us that if it was anything other than him eating something for which he would need surgery, they would not be able to help us because they didn't have an internal medicine person. It's like an emergency surgery vet. So they recommended that we take him to a different, bigger emergency vet across the city. But during this conversation, Fergus was like really sad meowing, and he had diarrhea in his carrier, which was so disgusting. We felt awful for him. It almost made me throw up. It smelled horrible, and he was obviously just miserable. So, because would never, cats are very clean, but he's also like the sort of cat, he would never like revenge poo on the floor if his litter box was dirty. We clean it every day, but some cats like want you to clean it right away. My dad's friend has a cat like that. Like if the person doesn't scoop the litter box immediately, Mikhail the cat will poo on the floor. But Fergus isn't like that. And so just a miserable little guy, and we felt awful for him, and he was covered in poo. So we got into an Uber. We cleaned up the carrier as well as we could, and the vets they helped us. They threw away the liner, gave us like a pad to put at the bottom of the thing, and we went to the like more specialist emergency vet place and checked him in there and gave them all of the medical information. And we waited there for over 2 hours, which is totally understandable. They're working on an emergency system. So if somebody comes in with a bigger emergency than you, they go first, which makes total sense. And we weren't in that big of an emergency because we had been pretty on it. Like as soon as he had started acting weird, we had taken him to the vet. So we were like pretty early in the timeline just because we had been a little bit paranoid about it. So we were able to catch it early. So we waited over 2 hours at the second emergency vet. By this point, it was nighttime, and we were just miserable. We were so worried about him. And at that vet, they took him away, because in all the other two, we had been there with him while we were waiting, so we didn't see him. We were really just sitting there in the waiting room as all of these people came in with these horribly ill or injured animals, running in, holding them, and it was just a really terrible, awful place to be. I cannot imagine what it would be like to work there. It must be a really difficult place to work. Yeah, and a really sad place to just be. It was hard to sit there. We both really struggled with it. Eventually, we were able to talk to a doctor who'd looked at Fergie. And by this point, Fergus was acting pretty spicy. He was pretty tired of being prodded and poked, and I think that he was biting and scratching. And I kind of have to give it to him. I don't know. It makes sense that he tried to defend himself. He was feeling miserable, and it's just kind of funny and weird to me because he's such a sweet little animal. He would never bite or scratch me on purpose. He'll do it by accident kind of a lot, but on purpose, that's not really his personality. So that was a little bit in a way, it was at least he's feeling well enough to try and defend himself, but also it was kind of weird because that's not normally what he's like. And they came in and they basically just said, he's stable, we've given him fluids, we put him on an IV, but we're not going to be able to do the ultrasound until the morning. And then from there on, if they find a blockage, they're going to do surgery. And if they'll do a biopsy or whatever, run a panel of tests to figure out what it is. So we went home and we were really devastated and sad, and we missed him, and we were exhausted, and I had poo all over my hand jumper, and not all over, but any amount kind of feels like all over. And yeah, I got home, washed the jumper, we ate dinner, and went to bed. And they said that they would call us the next morning, but they didn't. And also all of that day when we were at the vet's, I was waiting to hear back from a job interview where they had told me basically that I had gotten the job. So I was sort of happily waiting for it, but as the day went on, I was like, oh, this isn't a good sign. I still haven't heard from them, and it's Friday, and they said they would call on Monday, so at this point I'm just assuming that I didn't get the job. But when it's an emergency, but you're also just waiting all day, that's the worst time to be waiting for a phone call like that, because you're not occupied, but you are extra anxious and upset. So yeah, we got home just, trying to do all the things we needed to do. We went to bed the next day. My dad came through to Philly, which was really nice, and we got breakfast, but we still didn't hear from the vet, and they'd said that they would call us before 12, but they'd also said that no news was good news, so we weren't panicking. That afternoon we called them. It turns out that they when we got in, the phone number had been written down in a bit of a messy way or something, so they were calling one digit off, and they had been calling us. Maybe that's what happened with the job interview too. So they told us basically, given how sick he was, it was the best case scenario. He didn't have anything in his stomach, which was great. He didn't need surgery. It was acute pancreatitis. And I don't know if if anyone is still watching at this point, have a cat, but apparently this is something that can just happen. Sometimes it's triggered by them eating something, but Fergus didn't eat anything. They were able to confirm that. And sometimes it's triggered by like a big lifestyle stress, like getting a new kitten, or if somebody like introduces a baby to the household. And sometimes they just get it spontaneously. And it seems like Fergie just spontaneously got acute pancreatitis that made him really sick. So we were able to get him back last night. It feels like so long ago. And I was working, so I wasn't able to go to the vet and like ask a million questions. So I still am not totally sure on something. They sent us home with like 5 different medicines to give him. We've been able to successfully give him one time. He's not a cat that will take a pill. And we've pilled other cats, but not Fergus. He's just, I couldn't do it. But yeah, so they sent us, we got him back, and he's pretty loopy. He's on gabapentin, which makes cats pretty high. It's like a painkiller for them. I think it's a nerve blocker for humans. I was on it after surgery once. And they just said to keep an eye on him, make sure he's eating and drinking, and over time it will get better. It'll resolve itself, basically. But he would have needed like the IV fluids and that sort of stuff anyway. It's not like it would have resolved itself at home. But now he's supposed to just get better over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, we've had him back just about a day. He's quite shaved, like both of his little legs. He's got like shaved arms and also shaved haunches. And he's pretty loopy, which is sort of funny, but I really just want him to be back to normal, to be honest. So we'll see how long the stress of being on the painkiller weighs out the stress of the pain, if that makes sense. And continue, because that's the one we've been able to give him. And yeah, hopefully he will just continue to get better and it won't happen again. But oh gosh, it's been a difficult week. With the hospital stay, he was in hospital for 2 nights and sick for a day before that, and then now we have him back. So I've plugged in his heated bed because he's quite shaved and I'm worried he's going to be cold. And we've been giving him a lot of attention as usual. And he seems to be very happy to be home. But yeah, I'm really glad it's all over and that he's okay. And that is the whole story. I hope that if you're watching this and you have a cat, this never happens to you. There is nothing we could have done to stop it from happening, and apparently there's like not much we can do to stop it from happening again. And it's just something that cats do sometimes, apparently. So I guess that's that. But Fergus is fine. Maybe I'll put a little video of him at the end so you can see. And yeah, my next 2 weeks are looking pretty uneventful, which in a good way. And I'm hoping to get a little bit of knitting done and try and recoup a little bit of energy, because this week has been quite a lot. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a good day, and yeah, have a good one. Bye. Sweet boy. Sweet boy. What an angel.